Welcome to a very, very special episode of Talking with Kevin and Son and featuring people you should know. Hi, I'm Kevin McLemore. I am your show host. I'm a four-time published author, a speaker, and mindset messenger. This episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. Through our power of our stories, our mission is to uplift our voices, inspire and share stories and experiences and perspective using the framework of teaching, learning, and modeling. Our purpose is hope, helping
Mm.
other people every day. I always say in opening, whatever your objective is, successful people, they create a framework around their day-to-day lives that somehow not only enhances theirs, but sometimes they pour into others. Today's podcast is an introduction or a coming out celebration of a friend that is now leveling up to the next level of her journey with her new podcast, About This Life podcast. Hopefully, I got that right. A celebration and journey
Yes.
to renew and transformation. Now, let me tell you the backstory and why this is so important. You've heard me at the top of the story saying RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. How this came to be is my grandfather always said, success breeds success, and you are a direct reflection of the company you keep. Each person I've had on my podcast, each guest, each co host from my Sunday motivation with Kevin and friends, all directions, um, all reflections of the company I keep, people that are positive, that are pointing to each other. So, learning this through business and learning podcasting through business without a coach or mentor, I entered this space blindly. I always say I'm building a plane while flying, knowing that there's always a calm before the storm. It sometimes seems in our life's
Mhm.
everyday endeavors, the storm never seems to relax a little bit. We make some mistakes. We make some that are costly. We make some mistakes that are emotionally draining. And we make some professional mistakes that we have to do a reset and shift from. Not known to everyone else.
Mhm.
Sometimes we set off to walk in the same footsteps as other people and their ideas. But in order to be a great podcaster, you have to be authentic. You have to know better. You have to do better. You have to create a story that someone wants to hear. You have to share the secrets to your success and have other people share theirs with you. So, with this mindset, my grandfather says, and you've heard me say this before, when you get to a space you can help someone else out, it is your duty to do so. So, with the success of RMK Productions, we created the 10 United Podcast Network. Our goal is to bring new podcasters into a space that was where there was already an existing audience. Instead of spending
Mhm.
6 months talking into a mic with no listeners, we decided that as successful as we were confident, is to share
Mhm.
under our umbrella new podcasters that were venturing out, and they will stay with us for a year and get their feet wet and talk to an audience that's already there that understands how important it is to like, share, and comment. And we let our customers decide to follow RMK Productions or the content's that great to follow my new guest today. So my new guest is not only a friend, she is reliable. She is a powerhouse of a speaker. She is an educator. She's a change artist. She's a gatekeeper to self-awareness and change. She has captivated audience, both young and old, from around the world. Today, we are launching on RMK Productions and the 10 United podcast and introducing to you a new podcast host. She is one of the 2 million podcasters that are registered into sharing content, and she is one of 2,000 people of color that shares content through podcasting. So I want to welcome my guest, superstar in the making, Miss Ann-Marie Maloney. Much love to you in a new podcast. So
Much love, Kevin. Much love. Thank you for that wonderful flowing introduction. My goodness, the affirmations. I'm blushing from all of it. So it's
well,
coming. Thank you. So I
no,
thank you. Go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
I was going to say thank you, let you do your talk, because it is my honor. not only to be part of your story, but I'm there to hold you up and when the waters get a little rough and to guide you through this process. I had to learn this all by myself. Even though I started out with two podcasters, I had to look for answers and I made a $10,000 mistake because I bought into someone that says I can get you followers, likes, and all this other stuff. And it
Mhm.
cost me
Mhm.
$10,000 to learn a lesson I already knew. You cannot make someone follow you. You can't make someone like you or make comments unless you tell a story or create a situation that people want to become engaged with you and become part of your story. And the key thing is, we're all great storytellers. And so when I created this platform, I wanted to make sure that no one had to suffer the way that I do. And it is going to get rough before it gets easy because you'll have people that will say things because the internet allows you to have some anonymity that you can
Yes.
speak and say
Yeah.
whatever you want to. But I also know that us in this business as Black people, we have a thick skin. All right.
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And so,
Yes,
and the
we
nice
do.
thing about it, we have a story to tell. So, enough about me. It's enough about RMK Productions and why you are here. And like I said, you are one of the chosen ones. We get calls all the time wanting people to be part of this network, and we only work with people that are making difference in people's lives. We're not chasing a bag. We're chasing the content and the story that needs to be told, and a difference in someone's life. And that's the reason why you're part of this show. But I want people to get to know you. So if you don't mind, before we start talking about your podcast and what it's about and what you plan on accomplishing, I'd like to peel back another layer of your life and tell us a little about you.
A little about me. First off, I want to just give thanks and honor and glory to God because He opened this opportunity, He opened this community to me. And where would I be without God? So, from that, you can assume that faith, believer, that has been a guiding light in my entire life. I've spent some decades, I've spent some time in terms of life lessons that has come through a career in social marketing where we didn't market issues like selling a car. We didn't market issues like selling perfume or cologne or anything like that. We were about the business of public information and education campaigns. So for many years, I worked with some of the largest public relations firm, and our campaigns were about educating the public, different segments of our community, and how to be their better selves. Then my entryway into education, the field of education. I am a national board certified teacher and have been featured in the National Education Association magazine that came in October 22. And the reason for that feature is I do something called arts integration. I'm a little bit artsy, if you can tell. The arts, in terms of creativity, in terms of things like dance, music, visual art, media arts, drama, in order to teach and engage our young people, is about providing our youth a phenomenal experience in terms of how they can demonstrate mastery of content. I've got them when I can bring those elements in. And that flows into my personal life too.
All
So
right.
that's a little bit about me.
All right. All right. Well, people don't know that in the background, there's a process of setting up a podcast, and I'm teaching a handful of students at Cheney University and a couple other historically Black colleges the introduction to podcasts. And I'm probably going to use this as a study guide on how to do it. They already know that one, you have to go out and register your domain name once you come up with a show name. And I always say, create the show, Google the name of your show to see if anyone else is using it, and then write a mission statement, and then find out why you want a podcast. So I'm going to ask you one. How did you come up with the name of your show, the title of your show?
Awesome sauce. So it came up organically. I was at a cookout with family, with friends, and we're sitting and we're just talking about all these things. You know, the common nomenclature these days is life. And so we were just talking and relaxing, and we learned and understood that all of these things and someone in the group said just about this life is something, and I went that part, and that resonated with my spirit. It resonates with my soul. So that's how the title came up organically, just through a conversation with friends.
All right. And as far as branding is concerned, I always say, and this is part of the my teaching, if it looks good on a hat and a t-shirt, it's a good title. And I'm sure that many people that own Shark Tank will tell you if it looks good on a hat and t-shirt, it's a good way to build a brand around it. So what is the name of your podcast?
About this life.
All
And
right.
you'll hear me say, listen. I love to say that.
All
Have I
right. All right.
listen as in I have something to tell you, Kevin.
All right. So let's talk about your style on your podcast so we know what to expect. And you can incorporate the description or your mission statement in this. Are you speaking from a position of being an expert? Are you entertainment? Are you a co-host to your own hosted show where we're going to have guests and people on it? Or are you going to go be a solo lot? What can we expect from your show?
Listen, there is an opportunity to move away from this imposter syndrome that some of us carry with that. So I let the baggage go because I said to myself, who's going to listen to me? And I thought to myself, when you reach a season time in your life, you have a life's worth of experience. That experience comes from what you've studied. It comes from what you've researched. It comes from hearing the life stories of people all along. It comes from sharing. So, my podcast, in terms of the format, it always begins with a quote, with a song, or some sort of story that is relevant to the topic of my guest. I will say to you, I want to hear from guests because I want to hear their stories. And the stories are about transformation into becoming your better self. Listen, we are not alone in our journey. We are not alone in some of the, regardless of your ethnicity, your race, your gender, your identification, or what have you. There's this thing in our mind that says nobody else is dealing with this issue. Or we might say that person over there looks so successful, especially when you go onto IG or you go onto the gram and you think everybody has it going on. Truth is, just by being human, just by being alive, there are certain issues we struggle with, everyone struggles with. And so the guests come on to talk about how they get through that. Okay. And how do we transform and let go of some of the beliefs, the limiting beliefs we have? If you'd like, I'd like to give you an example.
Go ahead. Go
Cool.
ahead. Fire away.
Okay. Cool, cool. I think of a commonality between everyone is something called rejection. Everybody has experienced rejection, whether that's rejection uh, in a family, rejection by a loved one, a lover, rejection in friendship. And, you know, back in the day, Kevin, when we were younger, it used to be about crawling up in a big old ball and crying and saying, oh, why me? And I just like, you have to let that go. And so you come to a place where you understand, in terms of letting go and changing mindsets, that first of all, rejection is a blessing because that has come along someplace in your life to teach you something about your own self. It is like a mirror that you hold up, and there's something inside, whether it's in your subconscious or conscious mind. And your goal then, after experiencing such an event, is to ask yourself, well, what am I supposed to learn from this? So, rejection, abandonment, attachment issues, neglect, childhood trauma, so on and so forth. Guests come on to talk about these stories and what it is they did to now be able to live and thrive.
It's amazing listening to you. You touch deep inside the soul. Looking at you as you speak and then listening to you makes you appreciate the view from the top of the mountain as we hear the story being told. Is your podcast for young, old, black, white, male, female, or however we identify ourselves? How far can we spread this message?
We need to spread the message far and wide. We need to spread the message in terms of a light. And I'll tell you some distinctions that I've made because of that background in marketing and public relations and so forth. We come up with these things called target audiences, right? Who's my audience? Who's my person? Who's my avatar? About this life, people access it through that portal of there's a place inside of you that's hurting. You are existing. You can be at the top of your career. You can be the CEO of a wonderful Fortune 500 company or a small business. You can be going through a life change. Maybe the kids are grown now and you're wondering about what's next. So the different access points are where things are going to hit you because my topics vary. Everything from education to trauma. October is Domestic Violence Month, for example. So anyone looking to find a puzzle piece, how do I do some internal work within myself to be able to see a different perspective so I can thrive and move forward? Saying to someone you're resilient, it's overused. Oh my God, people look and say, okay, you're strong. You're a strong person. I'm just like, I don't want to be strong anymore.
Yeah, buddy.
So I don't do that anymore because when you're strong, but here's the thing, the person who is strong, they get there because somehow they have figured out how to overcome something that might have taken them out. And so they are a study, not for comparison, not to say I'm going to do it that way, but they are a study in terms of hope. They are a study in terms of light. There's hope. Where there's help, there's hope. There is light. You can do this. You can get through it. The other distinction, and let me know if I'm going too long.
No, that's
The
okay.
other distinction is About This Life is a podcast, it's for everyone. But as a woman, as a Black woman, I felt compelled or felt something in my spirit to form an online community. So on Facebook, I have a community. It's called Becoming Enough. This is a community where it provides an intimate, safe space for us to delve into our issues and to process life and see life through the lens in very much the way a female would, okay? Through guided meditations, through book studies, through fellowship, and so on and so forth. So, About This Life is for everyone. It is for everyone in terms of we all have stories. We can share that story with you. Becoming Enough is for women, and that does have a target audience in terms of, 40, 50, 60 and above. There you go.
There you go. And I'm glad you brought that up because in this space of podcasting, especially with people just coming in, and when I'm coaching, mentoring, or teaching this space, when people say, well, ask who your customer is, and the cliche is that if you say everyone, that means you have no customer. Well, I'm an example of when I created my podcast, I wanted to showcase people you should know. And when I say people, it didn't make a difference, black, brown, or however you identified yourself, if you had a story to be told. And when people told me that, I had to hone in on a certain group of people, you don't realize when a movie's released, a lot of people that the movie wasn't marketed to shows up because there's a great story attached to it, and
Yes,
someone shared, liked, or commented about that, and we went to go see the movie anyway. So the belief is, yeah, if you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, if you're a construction, you're giving financial advice, whatever, that's your audience. But when you tell stories that impact people's lives, we're
mm,
looking for people to impact on their life through our stories and our experiences and our perspectives and our interpretations, which I will say. So if anyone tells you you do not have, you don't know who you're marketing to, I get 10,000 people that listen to my show that will tell you different.
yes,
You will be introduced this week because we're going to release your first podcast this week,
yes.
October 4th, 2024. And we're not supposed to date ourselves in our podcast, but we want to be authentic. We're not trying to pull the wool over your eyes. We want you to follow, like, and comment, and we want to share. Our advertisers, one of the things that we do on R&K Production, when you advertise with R&K Production on one podcast, you get a shout out on every podcast is out there. So for the bang for
That's
your
a
buck and marketing sponsoring on this company, we go a lot further than just telling your story once, because we do know if you want to keep a secret for someone, what do? You ask them not to tell,
So,
right? So I'm telling everyone that's in marketing right
don't
now,
tell.
everyone that's advertising and so forth, that here at our RMK Productions, we do things different, and we all please don't tell. So I
But
want to ask you, go ahead.
Kevin, to your point, the point that you just made, in terms of everyone versus the target and so on and so forth. When you think of an issue like divorce, for example, obviously as a female host, I bring a perspective to it because I'm divorced and it came after several years. I was married for over 20 years. But on About This Life, there's room to hear the male perspective.
Yeah.
So if I were to say, oh, I talk about divorce, but my audience is women. I want to share the perspective of different people because how our roles, how we are socialized when we are raised, and the expectations that we set for ourselves or we have other people set for us, that is an issue for everyone. It's
Yeah.
not just an issue for a certain target. Okay.
Well,
So,
I'm glad you brought that up because I
yeah.
hope one day, you're going to be big, and I'm going to tell you, because all of my friends are big. I sound like a presidential candidate,
Okay.
don't I? All right. um, and the reason why I'm saying this because I'm going to love your show. I think you're going to be fantastic. I think everyone's going to love you. I think millions will stand in line and pay to hear your story, as my grandmother would say it. But I have a little book. And this is I'm breaking a rule in podcasting. It's not supposed to be about me, but
Okay.
this is the interview about us, two friends. And I need to find out the secret because I can't find it in any chapter of my book, Dating with the Full Deck. I've had four people that were going through divorce that have read my book, and I have four people that have rekindled their vows to each other and gone back to work it out. And I've had one person that was divorced from his wife and is now dating her. And I won't
Yeah.
say how important she is because she is a family member of a NFL team ownership, and they're now
Yes.
dating and getting along where they didn't get along before. So when you get to that point, if you ever read my book, please find that part in that story that I changed because I didn't know I had that power. And the nice thing about what you do, because you deliver every single Sunday on Motivational Sundays, and she is a guest. So if you guys want to see her more often, because she's going to be releasing a podcast once a week, but she can show up every single week on Motivational Sundays with Kevin and friends to hear the other side of her when her hair is down and she's just not beautiful. She wakes up at 9 o'clock in the morning. Um, but I'm hoping that that you can pull back some layers on me and expose me for who I am and share my story. I do want to ask you a question because there are more questions than answers, and I'm sure you're going to have answers. And we said this, and you missed this on the podcast this morning because you were preparing for this morning. Simon Sinek said they were talking about friends and how important it was. and he was talking with Trevor Noah, and I wrote this down. And I'm a big quote person. I'm going to ask you what your favorite quote is. When he said
Okay.
talking about friends, especially with men, he says, "We do not build trust by offering help. We build trust by asking for it." Do you agree?
We do not build trust by offering help. We build trust by asking for it.
Yeah.
There's truth in that because, uh, like, I have a friend and she just had a medical procedure. I keep offering my help. You want me to come over, bring a meal, pray for you? What would you like? It is not until she's ready to accept and receive help, she will ask for what she needs. I need a ride to the doctor's appointment today. Are you available? I did not get a chance to go to the grocery store. Are you available? So one can argue that there's distinctions between offering help and asking. But the thing about that quote, though, I still believe in the power of at least offering and
Okay.
having the person who receive it, who hears it, to be able to make the decision for themselves of how they would like to proceed. And I tell you why that's important. Because we go through life and sometimes we think we're alone. We think that nobody's interested in our life story. Everybody else is so busy, they are doing so well. And so we can come into this space of isolation. So just the fact that someone has offered help, that touches the soul. The person hearing it, they have a choice. They can say yes or maybe later, but at least they know somebody's thinking about them. So that's where I go on that quote. Make sense? Makes sense to me.
All right. I like that. Again, using this as a 101 to podcasting. Life is filled with distractions. You're a school teacher. You're also a coach and a mentor. You also, your evening hours are filled with spoken words, not only featuring yourself, but you have many, many talented students. You've had one on Motivational Sundays with Kevin. He's come up and he's delivered. He's gone on to high school now
Yes.
in this space because the biggest problem with podcasting, and I said there's over 2 million registered podcasters, 2000, and you become 2001 registered podcasts, is that most podcasters, they fail or they drop out or they disappear after 6 episodes. And in this business, people don't look at you as a successful podcaster till you have had at least 100 episodes. So marketing companies don't look at you until you've got almost six figures and people that follow you, whatever. I don't believe that. I believe in the power of your story. But the one thing that happens, because life does happen, and I know on my end, I prepare for life events, being sick, family members, issues, jobs, financial vacations, and whatever. How do you plan on producing this podcast and stay away from your distractions?
Oh my goodness, the distractions are many, and I have to tell you, as an educator, uh, our lives are not our own for 10 months out of the year. So it is a bountiful work. And my passion, my love, my purpose is in the conversation with my guest. I was handling all of the production things on my own, but I'm tearing my hair out. I can't do it because when you're juggling so much, you're dropping some balls here and there. And so it comes to, a realization that why am I doing this? Let me focus on just being with the guest. So I'm able to reach out to RMK Productions and I'm able to say, I need help. I need to be able to deliver this to you. Work the magic. So, because there's a message that needs to get to people. And if I feel that I am a medium, I'm a conduit, I'm someone God uses to get that message out, But the stumbling block is my knowledge or lack of knowledge about technology. I can't let that stop me. So I'm on point, I'm on purpose, I'm moving forward, and that's why I needed RMK Productions.
All right. And RMK Productions needs you. And peeling back another layer to her story is that when I started out my podcast as CBS Talent Scout, offered me a position to be after testing me and going through similar what we're doing here. He says, I just need to get you a mic. And I said, I didn't want to work for anybody else. I was tired of building someone else's dream and wanted to focus and work on mine. So the advice he gave me, and which is the advice that we will give you and any other podcaster. We allow you to produce, edit your own show, and we can stream it through RMK Productions because we have an audience. But we also offer the opportunity for us to do all the heavy lifting for you. The advice he gave for me, he says, you're likable. He says you give great engaging conversations and questions. He said, let someone else do the heavy lifting. Let someone edit,
Yes.
produce, and everything else. And so what happened is my partner and I, Mac, he's a technical guy. I mean, you ask me anything technology wise, whatever, I can answer, but he has the answer. And we produce, we stream, we do all your social media and everything for you. So all you got to do is go ahead and produce your podcast. And my advice to every podcaster, including my kids at Cheney, do not ever have a guest on your show that you don't want to sit and have Thanksgiving dinner with. And you know what it's like in a Black family to have Thanksgiving
Yes.
dinner, right? All right.
The side eye.
Yeah. So it's a good time. There's good times and there's bad times around Thanksgiving dinner. And so this brings back another question, but I want to peel back the layer because this is important in your show. How do
Okay.
people get in touch with you?
Oh, absolutely. People can get in touch with me from about this life underscore podcast.co. So let me run that back. About this life underscore podcast, CALLCAST .co. I'm also on Instagram and with your help,
Facebook.
RMK. Yes, YouTube. I'm looking forward to YouTube. I mean, do I have to go out? I don't need an excuse to go buy a new wardrobe.
You know something? You are sharp just the way you are. And on this, because we have to realize that a large percentage of the population that is not Black, they listen on audio. But
Yes.
63% of our Black community, they like the visual. They like to sit in a room with you and they like to see and read your eyes to see if you're telling the truth. So why not, for those that are starting podcasts, don't cut out half of your audience. Do both the audio and the visual, in which this is our recommendation. Now, I do want you to understand is now that you're going to be a public figure, I still
Mm,
struggle with this of being recognized and giving comments or whatever. And I get some negative comments on my show is too long. It should be shorter. I can listen to it, whatever. And I'm going, if you don't have time to go ahead and listen to something that's going to educate you, whatever, listen to it in two parts. I'm okay with that. But I have a philosophy on my show is that I set it up for 35 to 45 minutes. But as a respect to my guests, if you have a story that needs to be told, I'm going to tell your story. And if it runs
yes.
longer than an hour and whatever, hey, if I'm not uncomfortable, I know there's someone out there that's in a position of power that will be comfortable. And so I want to, one, prepare you for what's to come, but I also want to talk to you. How do you avoid the pain of being a celebrity, of being criticized, condemned, or telling you how to do it better because they've done it this way or whatever? How do you avoid that pain?
I've been in training for 20 something years as a teacher. I've been in training. Oh my goodness. My community certainly you have people say, well, my child did not get an A. Why is that? Until they had you. So I call it in training, life's training. But in all seriousness, it speaks to holding on to the purpose and vision of what it is to accomplish. The podcast came to me, and I give God the credit for it. In my youth, in my younger days, one of the things I said I want to grow up and be like a television host. And And I put that to the side. I got married, I had kids to raise, a career to build. And the fact that that dream has resurfaced just in a different form, in a version of how we operate in media today, it spoke volumes to me in the sense that the dream I had of being on television and having like a show is now materialized into this podcast. I didn't grow up thinking I'm going to be on a podcast host, but it fulfills the dream. So how do you deal with uh, the feedback that you receive? First of all, there's some that I have to, it might be valuable. I have to
Right.
consider it. And there's some that you just let it roll off your back and say, this is true or not true to my purpose, to my intent. I want to say also, there are many times along the way I thought about quitting. I've been going at this over a year. And one of the reasons why I'm coming to RMK Productions for help is because I want to grow my audience. I am talking with guests who have the most amazing stories, the most amazing depth and thought provoking questions for us all to grapple with. And I'm like, who's hearing this? I need for people to hear it because if you hear it, it is my belief that it will change something or impact you in your life. Dr. King, um, Dr. Martin Luther King, he has a quote, and forgive me if I don't say it accurately, but it's like darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can drive out darkness. Why are we going about this life living our lives downcast? Why are we going about this life barely holding on, barely surviving? Why aren't we? God made us so that we can live life abundantly, not just when we get to heaven, but here and right now. So that's what will keep me grounded. That's what will
Yes.
keep me grounded.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm going to take this moment. This is one of our affiliate sponsors for RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network, as well as Talking with Kevin and Son. We are an affiliate marketer for Xero Shoes. And I will say this from personal experience. If your ankles, knees, and back, chest, and shoulders hurt during the course of a day, your feet are tired at the end of the day, I would say go barefoot. If you want to know more information about the benefits of going barefoot, go to Xero Shoes, www.xeroshoes.com, and talk to my good friend Steven Sanchin. Watch his videos, and
Mhm.
they'll tell you about the benefits. Get out of those high heel shoes or whatever and stop walking around. Oh, my back, my knees and stuff hurt. But he is one of my affiliate sponsors. He is now your affiliate sponsor. So we will send you that link and let people know how to go barefoot. And so, with that said, um, I do have a personal question, and hopefully you don't have to answer it now, but I
Mhm.
hopefully it'll be a topic because one of the other benefits is that me personally, I have interviewed nearly 300 people on my show. As a podcaster within the family RMK Productions, you can go through my library of interviews, any guest, any guest that has appeared on my show. If you want to talk to them on your show, you now have access.
Oh,
The biggest success of any podcaster, any author, any salesperson, any politician, friend, or whatever the case may be, is the power of referrals. That is the secret sauce to success. You are only as strong as the people that are within your circle. My friends, they have a very high call to action. When we ask for help, they don't ask any question. They just said, don't hurt them. I am now extending my library to you. And this is going for anyone that's under RMK Productions and 10 United Podcast. So you will never, ever have to search for a guest. So if there's someone that is interested of you, I'll pick up the phone. Now they have the right to say yes, no, depends on the schedule, but I will allow you access to the content I have. All right.
you
So
know,
that's part of what we do here.
And that is comes from the heart because that's above and beyond the business aspect. And that also speaks testimony to you in terms of the relationship that you have with people. Because you to do something like that and for people to be responsive and open to that, that means there's a trust there and you've created a sacred space to coexist. And I want to thank you for trusting me. I want to thank you for trusting me. And I will treat it as such and the honor that it deserves. So I appreciate you, Kevin McLemore.
Well, I appreciate you, Ann-Marie Maloney, new podcaster under RMK Production. Let me pull the layers back. She is not under RMK Productions. She is part of RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. We're about to release her very first episode of her podcast, and the name of your show is what?
About This Life with your host, Ann-Marie, changing our lives one
All right.
day at a time.
And if you're looking to be on a podcast, if you have a book, you have a story to be told, you're making a difference. We only deal with positive stories or stories that's going to impact. And believe it or not, for those of you that are now saying, I would love to be under it, we don't do drama. So there's a character clause in here. So if you notice, we haven't talked about politics or we're not tearing anyone down or whatever. We're not talking about any letters of the alphabet. We're talking about human connections, the transformation of emotions. We're talking about a renewal of love and heart. I hope one day to have a conversation on building strong men and strong women, coming up from the
Mm,
child to the man one day. Because I know for men, the holidays are coming up, and I know for many Black men that in the month of December, suicide rate is high. So mental health itself, men do not have an identity within a relationship with women because we can make up excuses all day long, and I can talk about this, and we can go for an hour. But I would like to talk about it because there's a conversation that needs to be had, not only for men, but for women. Get rid of the phrase of strong women, because when we think about strong woman, that's a full-time job. We're already suffering on the job we have now. Home and a relationship should be a safe place. So, um, what do you want?
sounds like a series to me.
This sounds like a story that needs to be told. So
It sounds like a series. Yes.
I want you to leave a little something for our audience. I want to go ahead and introduce you. So I want you to go ahead and do your intro, your podcast, so that people know, so we can go ahead and stream that out there before we do the outro. Okay,
All right.
go ahead, fire.
Listen. Let me tell you, life has so many struggles. And I think about my baby boy. I tell him, just like in that poem, Mother to Son, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tax in it. Woo! That life, it goes up and down, but somehow we get through it. Welcome to About This Life with your host, Ann-Marie, where we are changing our lives one day at a time.
Oh my gosh, I wish. Hey, you want to do my introduction? I like that. I love that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope, and I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask my listeners and my followers for the next 30 days. That's the month of October 2024. For the month of October 2025. For the month of October 2026. For the month of October 2027 and beyond. To take 30 days and not only listen to the content that I've created, but I want to showcase Miss Ann-Marie Maloney and listen to her show. And I'm asking you, from the time you listen to it, find 10 friends that have a high call to action and like, comment, and share that with 10 of your friends. And for 30 days, ask them to do the same thing. In order to make one show successful, this is the secret sauce to building a community. And like you said, go on your Facebook to create a community. And I'm going to ask you to help me build a community because I would like to do a show called He Said, She Said around my book, where we can have open and honest conversations about hardships and good times in personal relationships, not just around my book. So we'll talk about that. So to my audience, I want to say
Absolutely.
buckle your seatbelt or fasten your seatbelt. Sit back in your seat. Don't wait for the flight attendant to tell you that we're flying at 300,000 feet up in the air, or whatever. And I want you to look out the window, and enjoy the view. So I say to you, to grow, you must make some mistakes. To have confidence, you must address your anxieties. To forgive yourself, you must hold yourself accountable. To learn, you must unlearn some stuff. And to exist, you must show up as more today than you did yesterday. Understand the power of your story. It's all about this life in this new podcast featuring Ann-Marie Maloney. My grandfather always said, when you get to a point in life that you can help someone else out, it is your duty to do so. He said, reach one, teach one. And with that said, I can't wait to see the next page of your story. We'll fade to black, and we're out. Thank you.